Welcome to the deep dive. This is where we take sources you send in, pull out the key stuff, and, well, try to make it quick and maybe even a bit entertaining to get you informed.
Think of it as getting the gist, those little aha moments, without needing to wade through absolutely everything.
Exactly. And today, we're diving into something sparked by our listener, the learner, who's after that solid understanding, this time of a fictional world, but, without it being overwhelming.
Which brings us to these excerpts from Sam Sykes's fantasy novel, Tome of the Undergates.
Right. And this isn't like reading a history book. We're talking scenes packed with dialogue, loads of action, characters that are just, wow, very memorable.
Definitely. So our mission here is to kind of unpack this world just from these snippets. We'll look at the immediate conflicts and get a feel for the characters who often seem to clash, actually.
Oh, for sure.
And maybe start piecing together some of the mysteries that pop up almost straight away.
Okay, let's get into it then. First off, that back and forth between Lenk and Kataria, it really stands out immediately.
It does. You've got Lenk, who seems like this reluctant leader figure.
Yeah, trying to keep a lid on things.
And then there's Kataria, who's just, well, her line, watch backs, shoot humans, tells you a lot very quickly.
It really does. It sets up this, grim pragmatism, maybe nihilism. It hints at the kind of world they're in, right?
Absolutely. And it's the contrast with Lenk's hesitation, his approach, that creates this dark humor almost. They're seeing the same situation so differently.
It is funny in a dark way.
Yeah.
Then Denaos pops up. Another flavor entirely.
Oh, Denaos. He's clearly looking out for himself. Escape, loot, that seems to be his focus.
His line about the dead cragsman, only one more than I had anticipated, it's just perfectly cynical. Tells you everything.
It really does. And his interactions with Lenk and Kataria, they sort of draw out their own moral lines, don't they?
Yeah, like Lenk having some issues with looting the dead, maybe. And Kataria's reaction to Denaos showing even a hint of decency is quite revealing, too.
It tells you what she expects, or perhaps doesn't expect, from people in their line of work.
And we get these quick hits of the others, too. Asper, the priestess, worried about blasphemy right off the bat. Drudalion, the wizard, seems very reliant on his magic, maybe not totally in control.
That seems fair. His explosive reaction later certainly suggests that. Volatile is a good word.
And Gariath, the dragon man.
Yeah.
Just brutal efficiency in his actions.
Yeah. These intros are quick but effective. Asper's concern about Kataria being a shipped, that hints at deeper prejudices in this world, even if we don't know exactly what that means yet.
Right, some kind of social or religious tension there.
And Gariath's later comment, ugly, stupid, smelly about pretty much everyone. It underlines his perspective.
Yeah.
Very blunt.
Definitely not sentimental. And then, bam, the Cragsman attack. Pirates. Everything kicks off.
Yeah, throws them all into the fire immediately, forces alliances, but also, like you said earlier, shows those cracks, the tensions just under the surface.
Kataria seems almost happy about it, doesn't she? Like she's comfortable with the violence.
She certainly seems adept at it, but then the threat shifts, which is interesting. It escalates.
Yeah, those pale fishmen infiltrators show up.
Yeah.
That introduces something weirder, more mysterious.
It's a nice twist. You think, okay, pirates, we get that. But then it becomes something less familiar, more unsettling.
Denaos finding them hiding. Yeah, that ups the creep factor. They're stealthy.
Disturbingly so. And while you're dealing with that, the internal stuff starts boiling over too.
Like Quillian. Her religious fervor calling people godless savages. That adds a whole new layer.
A big one. Her clash with Kataria is pretty intense. It really highlights these deep-seated hatreds or conflicts simmering in their world.
And through all this, Gariath is just this engine of destruction.
Immense power, brutally efficient.
But indiscriminate, too, with that comment about everyone looking the same to him. It establishes him as this massive force, but maybe a dangerous one to have around.
Could be. It's this mix, isn't it? External threats keep coming, but the internal friction is just as dangerous. For you, the learner, this shows it's not just about fighting monsters. It's navigating these really complex, often hostile relationships.
Okay, but then it gets even bigger picture. The hints of the supernatural, the unknown, that Link mastership just cruising alongside them, that felt significant.
It did. Very subtle, but it makes you wonder who else is out here? What kind of power are they dealing with? How can that ship keep pace so easily?
Right. It suggests players on the board we haven't even met, maybe operating on a whole different level.
Exactly.
And Link's internal thing,
Yeah.
the voice, fight, kill,
Yeah.
that feels like a big clue, potential aha moment down the line.
Oh, absolutely. It suggests there's something more going on with him personally. Is it stress, trauma, Or is it something external? Some kind of influence?
Yeah, like a supernatural element directly affecting him. Adds psychological tension. Makes him seem vulnerable, maybe?
It definitely complicates his character. And then you have Dread Dalian's magic troubles, the magic headaches.
Yeah. It's almost played for laughs at first, but it does make you think about the nature of magic here. It seems unpredictable, maybe dangerous even for the caster.
His outburst later, "Oh, Veneri, help me, I'm so bad at this," right before things go boom.
Exactly. It suggests power isn't always perfectly controlled. Maybe it comes at a cost.
A definite risk. But then Lord Emissary Maimon arrives, and suddenly the whole scale shifts, doesn't it?
Totally. He starts talking about eons and demons,
Yeah.
and suddenly it's not just pirates and weird fishmen anymore. This feels cosmic.
It's a huge escalation. Miron basically reframes everything. The local problems seem almost insignificant compared to this larger, potentially apocalyptic conflict he's describing. His knowledge of the Abyss myth, that becomes key.
Okay, yeah, the Abyss myth. Let's
Yeah.
talk about that. The first encounter from Lenk's view,
Mm.
it's genuinely creepy. The tree was staring back, and that line is just unsettling.
Incredibly so. It's not just a monster. It's alien, sentient in a way that feels wrong. That gaze, that awareness from something plant-like, it creates this real psychological dread.
And it talks about Mother Deep, and it just shrugs off attacks from Gariath, from Lenk, that immediately tells you this is a whole different level of threat.
Yeah, brute force doesn't seem to work. It subverts that fantasy trope. Its resilience, its connection to this Mother Deep, it blows the mythology wide open.
Yeah.
What is Mother Deep? What are these things?
And those feathery things, the omens, picking at the dead bodies,
Mm-hmm.
just adds to the grimness, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah. There are like these little morbid punctuation marks everywhere. Constant reminders of death.
So grim. And then the Abyss myth attacks on the beach. Just scorched earth. Total devastation,
Yeah.
overwhelming dread. And then Lenk apparently dies.
Whoa. Yeah.
That just flips the table. The stakes go from high to astronomical.
It's a massive turning point. It shows the sheer power they're up against and makes you feel like, how can they possibly win?
Right.
For you, the learner, it really drives home that this isn't a story where the heroes are guaranteed to succeed. Consequences are real and devastating.
And it leaves you hanging about Lenk, too. Is he really gone? What does that do to the group?
Exactly. Which leads nicely into looking at the characters themselves, how they react as things get worse, their motivations, their internal stuff. It really comes out.
Like Denaos. He never really wavers, does he? It's always self-preservation first.
Consistently. His cynicism is almost refreshing in a way compared to others maybe trying to be noble. But yeah, his thoughts about saving his spices while a battle rages pretty much sums him up.
Yeah. And then Asper, her faith is getting seriously hammered by all this brutality, these
I
demons.
really feel her conflict, her healing oaths versus the reality of stabbing things and being around people like Kataria or Denaos.
Yeah.
How does she reconcile her beliefs with this world?
It's a great question. Her initial shock, that feeling of her pious world crashing into sin and cell-sorting, she thinks of it, that's palpable.
Mm-hmm.
And Kataria, she's just fascinating, so violent, but then this fierce loyalty to Lenk.
Right. It's complex. Going into that dust cloud after him, that's not just pragmatism. That feels like genuine devotion, maybe, despite everything.
Yeah. And we see her struggling with being called a shikt, the prejudice she faces. There's more going on under that surface.
Definitely multifaceted. The harsh exterior might be hiding quite a bit of vulnerability or at least unexpected loyalty.
Even Gariath shows a flicker of something more. When he talks about the Rega, there were Rega here, they are not anymore. That hints at a past, doesn't it? Loss, maybe.
It's a brief moment, but powerful. Suggests history, maybe tragedy behind the blunt pragmatism. Potential for growth, perhaps.
Maybe. Then, just when you think things can't get more complicated, enter the siren.
Oh, boy. Yeah, with her prophecy about the unholy wave.
Right. The stakes just keep rising. Now it feels like the whole world is potentially on the line.
It moves from a personal quest or survival mission to something with potentially global implications. That prophecy adds this huge sense of urgency and doom.
And her demand.
Yeah.
They have to kill something to stop a plague.
Yeah.
That adds this really uncomfortable moral dimension.
Doesn't it just, it's not just find the magic thingy. Now it's find the magic thingy, but also you might have to commit a terrible act to save everyone. Who do they kill? What are the consequences? Very murky.
Super murky. The Tome scene's linked to the Abyss myth. That becomes the focus. But then we find out Miron has his own game plan. About a gate. Releasing more demons.
That reveal is huge. Suddenly, the guy who seemed like he might have answers is maybe the biggest threat.
Quad.
Or at least deeply untrustworthy.
Total distrust now.
Mm-hmm.
Is he trying to control the demons? Unleash them? Why? It throws everything into chaos internally.
Big time, which
Yeah.
spills over into that climax in Irontide. Just
Yeah.
total mayhem.
Frogmen, Netherlings, Abyss Smiths. It's a blender of violence.
Yeah, just a desperate, chaotic free-for-all. Shows the scale of the forces arrayed against them.
And you get these key moments, like Kataria fighting SI,
Mm-hmm.
and Denaos, surprisingly, nearly sacrificing himself.
That Denaos moment is really interesting. Shows that even the most cynical characters can find something worth fighting, or maybe dying for. Highlight strengths, but also vulnerabilities under pressure.
But then, Lenk and Kataria apparently die. Again, or it looks that way.
Yeah, it feels like such a crushing blow. A moment of defeat, loss, leaves you reeling.
Seriously, what happens now?
Well, what happens immediately is the group just falls apart. Denaos literally leaves Kataria behind.
Gold.
And Dalian and Asper go off on their own path. It's just scattered. The end of these excerpts is uncertainty.
Total cliffhanger.
Yeah.
Which leaves us with all these questions hanging.
Yeah.
What is the Abyss Myth really? What's this Mother Deep?
And the tome itself, what power does it actually hold? Why is it so important?
Myron's true goal, is he trying to open the gate or control it? What's his endgame?
And that voice Lenk hears, what is that about? Is it connected to everything else?
So many threads left dangling.
Which is compelling, right? Makes you want to know more. Definitely. And the biggest question, maybe for the group itself, will they ever get back together? What happens to them individually now they're scattered?
Yeah, that's a big one for you, the learner, to think about. Can they reunite? What journeys will they go on alone?
The uncertainty is part of the appeal, leaves you wanting to pick up the book.
So, wrapping up this deep dive, we've explored this world that's just steeped in conflict, filled with really complex, often clashing characters.
Yeah, characters with complicated loyalties facing this enormous kind of terrifying supernatural threat that keeps escalating.
We've seen this mix of intense action, some really dark humor popping up.
Which you almost need given the grimness sometimes.
Totally. And these underlying mysteries just keep pulling you deeper, like Mirren's deception or just how terrifying the Abyss Myth actually is. Those were real aha, or maybe oh no moments.
Definitely. And we hope this dive gave you, the learner, a good handle on the core pieces of this fantasy story, a shortcut to understanding what makes it tick without getting bogged down.
It's a world where the lines between good and bad are pretty blurry, survival is tough, and the biggest dangers might be things you can't even really comprehend.
Well put. A glimpse into a brutal, mysterious, and pretty compelling fantasy setting.
Okay, final thought to leave you with. Considering everyone's scattered, facing these massive threats, the Abyss Myth, Miran, maybe even themselves, what single choice or maybe one event do you think will be the absolute pivot point, the thing that decides where these characters and maybe their world end up?
That's a tough one. Lots of possibilities. Definitely something to chew on if you decide to explore the Tome of the Undergates further.